Quote of the day: sometimes the wind of change feels cold, but it's also what carries your dreams to new horizons. Trust the journey even if you can't see the destination yet. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 3. That is the quote of the day. Now let's get right into this video. Now, this week's NXT, it was a going away show, a go home show before a big PLE. NXT's Heat Wave is coming up, so this was basically their big go home show. And honestly, it was very entertaining for what it was, and I enjoyed what we got this week. We had plenty of good matches, funny segments, funny promos, funny moments, shocking moments. It was entertaining for what it was. For a going home show, a going away show, it was really good. I enjoyed it. Not much complaints from me, on this one, not much complaints. So let's just talk about what we saw in this show and what happened. So the first thing we got, it was a 1-1 match. It was Josh Briggs versus Yoshiki Inamura in a street fight. Now, these two started throwing hands backstage before the match even started. Before the show damn near even kicked off, they started throwing hands, dude. Like, the show came on, not 2 seconds went by, and we already saw them fighting. I'm like, okay, I'm here for this. Let's get right into the action, So before the show even started, basically, these two just started throwing hands, feet, toes, fingers, and I don't know, whatever was in sight, Anyhow, though, the match eventually starts, and Josh Briggs and Inamura, they just go at each other, man. And they try to tear each other apart. Like, anything in sight they were using, it didn't matter what weapon it was, what part of the ring it was, what part of the arena it was, dude. Anything was up for grabs. In this match, we got chairs, kendo sticks, baseball bats, steel rails, trash cans. We got steel chains and everything in between. We got everything, dude. Oh my God. These two were trying to end each other, basically. And I'm like, you guys were friends like 2 weeks ago. Golly, go easy on each other. Dang. But anyhow, though, after all this was said and done, these two just fought a hard-fought battle. They went at each other trying to tear each other apart. After all that said and done, after all the big moves happened, the heavy-hitting moves happened, we finally get to the end of the match. And Josh Briggs ended up hitting Inamura with a low blow using a table. And this is the first time I've seen this. I'm like, how do you even low blow someone using a table? Okay. And after he low blows Inamura using the table, he then puts Inamura on top of the table and he hits a moonsault off the top rope through the table on Inamura for the win. And Josh Briggs is your winner of this Philadelphia street fight. After our first match, we got on to our second match. It was hands back to back. We got to our second match of the night, and it was Ricky Saints versus Jasper Troy. Now, this match, it was good, but I will be honest, I was a tad bit disappointed. I feel like this match suffered from not having a stipulation. I feel like if this match was like a no DQ or disqualification, no disqualification type of match, anything goes, fall counts anywhere, anything like that, I feel like it would have made this match so much better. Like, this match wasn't bad by any means, but I feel like I was just missing something, that animosity, that aggression, But anyhow, though, throughout this whole entire match, from start to finish, Ricky Saints absolutely got manhandled. Ricky Saints got dominated. He got ragdolled right, left, up, down, and center, dude. Oh my God. There is not a corner of the ring where this man didn't get thrown. Jasper Troy came out for blood and for vengeance, and that's what he did. He beat Ricky Saints silly, okay? Jesus. But after all that, though, shockingly enough, due to a misstep, a slip up by Jasper Troy, he went for a big move and it ended up backfiring on him, So he tried to slam Ricky Saints onto a steel stairs, and he literally did a senton dive onto the steel stairs, and that's what costed him the match. He went overboard. He tried to go crazy, a senton dive onto steel stairs, dude. What are you? Come on. But Ricky Saints ended up, rolling out the way, and Jasper Troy landed back first on steel stairs, and that ended up costing them the match, that slip up. So like I said, surprisingly, at the very end of the match, Ricky Saints ended up hitting a spinning tornado DDT off the top ropes onto Jasper Troy for the win. And honestly, I didn't see Ricky Saints winning this. I know he's like a big star, but, Jasper Troy is portrayed as this monster, and I thought he was actually going to pick up the win, and this was going to boost him even more, make him look more like a threat. I feel like Ricky Saints didn't really need this victory as much as Jasper Troy, the new talent, the new face, needed it, But anyhow, that was that. The match overall, it was good, That was my only complaint, that it didn't have a stipulation, but it wasn't anything. It wasn't a big deal. But anyhow, after this, we got a promo. It was our first promo segment of the night, and it was a promo segment from JG, Jordan Grace, the Muscle Muffin. The Muscle Muffin is back. So JG, Jordan Grace, basically comes out and she says, "I came to NXT to win championships, but that has not happened yet. I have weaknesses, but I didn't expect a friendship to set me back this far. I didn't expect a friendship to be one of my weaknesses. I was naive to believe in Blake Monroe. I was naive for falling for that trick, you know? At Heatwave, I'm going to hold up a mirror to Blake Monroe and I'm going to show her what ugly really looks like. And then Blake Monroe ends up coming out and she interrupts JG, Jordani Grace, you know? Blake Monroe comes out with security guards and she tells Jordan Grace that if you touch me, the match is off. I have this in a contract. If you touch me, no more match, nothing at Heatwave. This is all null, you know, null and void, no match, no nothing. So you can't lay a finger on me. And she came out with security to make sure that happened, you know? So Blake Monroe basically gets in the ring and she tells Jordan Grace, my muscle muffin, Jordan Grace, I can't even feel bad for you at this point. You are already sorry enough for yourself. You know, I'm not going to waste time on you. I'm not going to waste my breath on you. You're pathetic and you don't belong here. And JG, Jordani Grace, the muscle muffin, she gets offended, you know, and she says, Blake, you're disgusting. You're a disgusting snake. At Evolution, you couldn't stand to see me in the spotlight. You couldn't stand to see me as the main character. I was in the ring while you were in ringside, you know? And that bothered you. That bothered you to your core that I was in the ring while you were standing at ringside. And Blake Monroe, you're jealous of me. I'm not insecure. You're insecure. You're jealous of me. And then after all that back and forth was said and done, JG ended up saying, you know what? I can't get my hands on you, Blake, but I can get my hands on your security guards. And she started mollywopping the security guards. There was this big buff dude standing there. I'm like, dude, come on. Not you too. I would have just hightailed out the ring. Oh my God, dude. Like, come on. Come on. You're telling me you let Jordani Grace just manhandle you like that. Who's going to hire you for security after this, man? Come on. And I know it's entertainment. It's WWE, but, you know, we still got to have fun with it. But there was this big buff security guard. I'm like, dude, he got clothesline out the ring. I'm like, dude, hand in your 2-week notice, your resignation letter. It's over with, okay? But anyhow, though, Jordani Grace, JG, the muscle muffin, ended up beating the security guards because she couldn't get her hand on Blake Monroe. And that's how that segment ended. And Blake Monroe was basically, you know, scared silly and she ran off. After this, we got a 6-woman tag match. It was the team of Fatal Influence versus TNA's team, the Elegance brand. And that's the name of the group. That's the name of the team. It was 3 women called the Elegance brand. And for this match, we had a special guest referee. And the special guest referee was TNA's very own Masha Slamovich. Now, this was a really fun match. This was so entertaining from start to finish, honestly. These 6 women, they showed up, they showed out, and they absolutely stole the show. You know, this match was so fun, so entertaining. There was action happening consistently, you know, not a single misstep, not a single wasted moment. This was so entertaining. And we saw so many cool spots, so many interesting reversals, so many entertaining reversals at that, you know. We saw so many cool tag team sequences. This match, like I said, man, from start to finish, it was fun. It was fun. And that's literally the best way to describe it. It was fun. Both these teams, like I said, they showed up and they did their thing. But in the very end of the match, JC Jane of Fatal Influence ended up hitting her finisher for the win, and Fatal Influence win this match. And they are, you know, the last team standing, basically. And after this, we got another, you know, in-ring segment, and it was the big segment, I want to call it. You know, this, I knew it was going to be funny, and this was what I was kind of waiting for too, you know. It was the Chelsea Green, Ethan Page, and Tavion Heights, and Tyra May Steele, the signing of the peace treaty, you know, Canada and USA. They're going to sign a peace treaty, you know, they're going to basically, you know, squash the beef, and that's what it was supposed to be. Keywords supposed to be, you know, keywords, I should say, Jesus. But yeah, so they were supposed to squash the beef. They attempted to squash the beef, but it didn't go like that at all. But anyhow, though, we got to segment, and it was Chelsea Green, Ethan Page, Tavion Heights, and Tyra May Steele, and they got into the ring, and they were basically, you know, having a peaceful, quote-unquote, peaceful diplomatic affairs, you know, they were talking diplomatically or whatever. It was really entertaining. But anyhow, though, all ego Ethan Page, he gets on the mic and he says, me and Chelsea Green are here for a peaceful diplomatic talk, you know, a peaceful diplomatic meeting. Tavion, I applaud you. You are truly a weapon in human form. But I don't like the way you look at me. When you look at me, you see an opportunity instead of the greatest North American champion, and that bothers me. And Tavion Heights gets on the mic and he retorts and he says, Ethan Page, I've paid my dues. I've put in the work. Now I want it all. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for that championship. I want everything that's on my plate, and I want everything that's on your plate as well. I'm coming for everything, the spotlight, the glory, the championships, everything. So watch out. And after this, the women go at each other too. Chelsea Green and Tyra May Steele. They start trying to size each other up, talking about their accomplishments, what they've both accomplished, and they try to size each other up, trying to say, compared to me, you're nothing. And the other one's saying basically the same thing. Compared to me, you're nothing. I've done more than you, stuff like that. So basically, each woman respectively talk about their achievements, everything they've accomplished. Tyra May Steele says that she's the first ever women's gold medalist in WWE, which is very true. And Chelsea Green points out how she's the first ever women's United States champion. And Tyra May Steele's like, that doesn't mean anything to me. You see this gold medal around my neck? This means I could drop you where you stand whenever I want. So test me, play with me, step up to me. I want you to try it, And I love the intensity in, Tyra May Steele's eyes, the intensity in her voice, She has the character for that mic, She can talk that talk. And she could back it up too, most importantly. So you're like, I'm all here for it, and I can't wait for it to, finally get her big moment, her big match and stuff like that. So after all this is said and done, this whole peaceful diplomatic meeting breaks out into pure, utter chaos. Like they start throwing hands, a brawl breaks out, they start throwing hands, feet, fingers, hair, lashes, I don't know. Dude, they just started fighting, And after all this has happened, after all this is said and done, Ava, the GM, finally comes out and she announces, I'm tired of all this and this is going to be settled once and for all. And at Heatwave, NXT's Heatwave, it's going to be a mixed tag team match. Chelsea Green and Ethan Page versus Tavion Heights and Tyra May Steele. And I'm all here for this and I'm excited for this, After this, we got two pretty entertaining backstage segments. The first one was a backstage interaction segment between Miles Bourne and Lexis King. So Lexis King basically walks up to Miles Bourne and he apologizes to Miles Bourne for being so insensitive. And Lexis King proceeds to say, Miles Bourne, I don't know how you do it, how you're able to compete at such a high level, being both deaf and blind. I applaud you. And Miles Bourne is like, I'm deaf, but I'm not blind. And Lexis King is like, really? And then he pepper sprays Miles Bourne right in the eyes. I'm like, dude, that was pure comedy. He was like, really? There you go. Now you're deaf and blind. Okay. So that was funny. And after this, we got another funny backstage segment. It was between Dark State and the GM, Ava, and also Joe Hendry. So Dark State basically show up and they're talking to Ava saying that, last week we beat your top guys. We beat the top guys for NXT and the top guy for TNA. We're the real threat now. We're up and we're the biggest threat around here. So put some respect on our names. We want all the opportunities, all the championships. We want everything. We want it all. So they're basically talking to Ava, and they mess up. Some unfortunate soul accidentally slipped up and they said the one name that shall not be said, that should not be said. Joe Hendry, say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. They said his name and he appeared respectfully and rightfully so, So Joe Hendry basically shows up as soon as he hears his name, And Dark State basically issue out a warning to Joe Hendry. And they're like, Dark State basically tells Hendry, you better get behind us or we'll leave you behind. And the walking innuendo of Dark State, that one dude, he looks Joe Hendry straight in the eyes and he says, yeah, because you don't want us behind you. And I'm like, excuse me, what do you mean by that? The walking innuendo says, yeah, because you don't want us behind you. I'm like, okay. The look of utter fear in Joe Hendry's eyes, dude, that was pure comedy. Anyhow, after all that, we finally got to our main event. And it was the young OG Javon Evans versus Whoop That Trick, Whoop That Trick, oh yeah? Whoop That Trick, I like it. Trick Williams. Javon Evans versus Trick Williams. And the winner gets to face the Rula Oba Femi for the NXT Championship at Heatwave. And let me just say, dude, what a main event. Oh my God, this was entertaining. And this man, Javon Evans, died. There was this insane spot where Javon Evans literally went crashing through the announcer's table. And this dude went from like 10 feet into the air through the announcer's table. I was like, oh my God. Oh, dude, this main event, this was so entertaining. And throughout this whole entire match, Trick Williams absolutely manhandled Javon Evans. Like, it wasn't even a close competition at all. Trick Williams just showed up and he brutalized Javon Evans, Javon Evans even got pimp slapped at one point. I was like, the disrespect. Oh my God. And let me just say, Trick Williams has really become a star, in his own right. He has really become a star that he should be, In ring, he's got it in ring. He's got it on the mic. Trick Williams has really grown into his character, and I'm really happy for him. But anyways, at the very end of the match, due to a distraction from Mike Santana from TNA, the young OG Javon Evans was able to pick up the win over Trick Williams, and he hit Trick Williams with a off the top rope cutter, and that's how he won the match. And Javon Evans is gonna go on to Heatwave to face Darula Oba Femi for the NXT Championship, and that's how the match ended, and that was that, and that's how the show ended. And this episode of NXT, like I said, it was the going away show, it was the go home show. And like I said, it was very entertaining for what it was, and it was good for what it was. I don't really have too many complaints. Like I said, I enjoyed it from start to finish. And yeah, overall, I would rate this episode a solid 7 out of 10. It was entertaining to me and I enjoyed it. And that's all I could say. You know, we had some good promos, some good matches, funny moments, funny stuff, entertaining stuff. And that's all you could ask for, you know? But anyhow, that's my review and my breakdown of this week's episode of NXT. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for hearing me out. And thank you for being here. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to. And like, comment, and subscribe if you choose to. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm out.